Time to talk some Senior Bowl with our man, Jim Nagy.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening, everybody? Matt Dery back with you on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, on a Wednesday, February 7th and a Thursday, February 8th. We promised you Jim Nagy from the Reese's Senior Bowl, the executive director. Excited to talk to Jim as our episode today is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. We appreciate you making us your first listen, checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe on our Locked On Lions YouTube channel as well. Senior Bowl is in the books. Had a great week last week in Mobile, Alabama. The man that runs it all also does some work for ESPN as an NFL analyst. He's a longtime front office, just guru and scout in the NFL as well. And our good friend Jim Nagy is with us today and joins us on the program. James, what's up, buddy?
Matt, how you doing? Gosh, the last time we spoke, man, it's been a while, but the Detroit Lions were not NFC North champions, so congratulations.
I know, Jim, it's been too long. That's on me. You know, I love you. Give me a sense of, as somebody that grew up in the state and understands, like, how are you feeling throughout the year about the Lions just making this run?
Yeah, I mean, I'm most happy for my dad. When you work in the NFL, you kind of lose your fandom a little bit. I mean, I'll always, the kid in me will always be a Lions fan. But my dad, my parents up in Traverse City, they're in their 70s, and my dad remembers the 1957 title game. Like, he's told me the stories about that 49ers game. So it was cool. It was cool just to talk to them, and they were staying up late nights watching Monday night games this fall, and they were totally hooked, man. So I was really happy for them. And the national media made a big deal out of the city of Detroit and how crazy Detroit was, and that's great. But man, it's the whole state of Michigan. I'll say that. Like, there's people up north and people on the west side and in the Thumb. I mean, in the UP. I mean, it's the Lions are their team. So it's just not the Detroit area. It's the whole state of Michigan. So I was happy for all the fans, man. Incredible year that Dan and Brad brought to the community.
As somebody that obviously values the draft and works so much with young players like you do and college kids, you're getting them ready for the draft. Brad Holmes has swung and hit some serious home runs the last 3 years in the draft, and he seems to have built it the right way. Don't you agree?
Yeah, you have to draft well, man. I mean, you can go out and supplement through free agency or make a trade here and there, but you got to build you got to build your locker room through the draft, and they've done a great job. I mean, just those first 4 picks last year, Gibbs and Laporta and Campbell and and Branch. I mean, I forget who else they had down the line, but they definitely nailed those 4 picks.
Yeah, obviously you're right with Jahmyr Gibbs and certainly, like you said, Jack Campbell. I want to ask you about Sam Laporta. Last year when you saw all those tight ends, did you think he was the best of the group?
I didn't. No, I'm trying to think of who I thought Dalton Kincaid was of that senior class, but no, Sam's had a great year, man. I'm happy for him. We tried to get him here to the Senior Bowl, and he decided not to come, and that's obviously every kid's choice, every player's choice. So happy for him. Iowa's tight end U. I mean, they just keep cranking them out. They had, Eric All was there this year, the Michigan transfer. He was our second or third rated tight end before I think it was an ACL in November that Eric had. They actually had both their tight ends. They had both tight ends that are going to go back next year. So they're going to have 2 tight ends in next year's draft that are draftable players. So they do a great job developing those guys, and they get them ready. And just, for Sam to do what he did as a rookie, pretty incredible season.
Jim Nagy with us, executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. Audio only today. Jim is running around doing a bunch of stuff, so we appreciate his time and giving us his voice. Tell me about, next steps now. You're in year 3. You've been in some very good front offices. Now going into year 4, and with what they've done in the jump from 3 wins to 9 to really 14, if you count the 2 playoff games, sky the limit for this team, and they're young enough. How do you look at the future?
Well, the good thing is they know they got the quarterback. They know they can win with Jared Goff. The offensive line is solid. So, they have playmakers on offense now with Gibbs and J-Mo and Amon Ra. I mean, they've got some in Laporta. So you got really nice pieces. So you can target need areas, really. I mean, I don't, upgrade pass rush. I know Derek Barnes had a kind of a breakout year at linebacker. Add some corners, just add players at critical positions. Corner, pass rush, tackle. Add to the offensive line depth. But it's so nice having a quarterback and just knowing you can build around that guy. And again, as great as those guys all played as rookies, you would expect a big jump to year two. So as much as they got out of Jahmyr Gibbs and Sam Laporta and all those guys, like year two should be even better. So, it should be an exciting time. I mean, it's always going to be more difficult. They're not going to be, coming out of nowhere. They're going to have a target on their back. Everyone's going to be gunning for them. And to repeat, how you handle success is something as well. I mean, they're going to have probably more difficult schedule, and they handled success well in the season this year, but let's see how they handle it in the off season. And I'm sure that's Dan and Brad's focus, of keeping these guys humble and give them that edge that made them a good team this year. Let them, just make sure they keep that edge.
Got to give a shout out to Senior Bowl alum Ife Melifanu as well, right?
Yeah, that was cool to see Iffy do that, man. I mean, it'd been what, 2 or 3 years now, and it's why you can't give up on a player. Especially if he was a corner coming out. Now they've got him playing safety and dime linebacker, however they're using him there. And that's kind of what I thought his role would be. But that's a tough transition when you're a perimeter corner in college and you're going to be asked to do something completely different. It takes time, and some organizations give up on guys. So it was cool to see the Lions, show some patience with Iffy, and I think he rewarded them this year. It's, from the outside looking in and not being able to watch tape of those guys. We're watching too much college tape here, but sure seems like he played well.
No, there's no question about it. And like you said, with the Aaron Glenn really had him blitzing, and he was one of the sack leaders for the Lions in the second half of the season. Jim Nagy with us from the Senior Bowl. One more thing, Jim, on obviously the NFC Championship game, they fell short. They were there and they had them. You've been in locker rooms, you've been in front offices. What's the message? Anzalone said yesterday in that piece on the Players Tribune that Dan Campbell told him, watch the Super Bowl. Don't ignore it. Don't avoid it. What's kind of the message, and how do you bounce back from something like that where they were 30 minutes away?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I lost 2 Super Bowls, one on the David Tyree catch when we were undefeated in New England, and then the other one on the Malcolm Butler interception when I was in Seattle at the 1-yard line, and those were defining losses for both those franchises. And the Seattle team, we never really bounced back from that. We would have been back-to-back Super Bowl winners for the first time since the 03-04 Patriots, and didn't get it done. And I think it really affected the players and their trust in the coaching staff, and it just kind of fractured that team moving forward. Now we still got back to the playoffs in subsequent years, but it's just never the same. So that wasn't quite as crushing because it wasn't the Super Bowl. But again, they blew a 17-point lead, and so it's going to be a challenge. I mean, and Dan and his staff, they got to keep that thing together and keep those guys focused. So it's not easy. It's definitely not easier getting over a loss like that. Now, what they have to keep reminding themselves is that they did something the Lions haven't done since 1957. They won twice as many playoff games as they had since 1957. So
Yeah.
In 1 year. So I think they just need to focus on all the great things they did do and not, maybe not dwell on that last game.
I wasn't going to bring up Darrell Bevel or Russell Wilson or any of that, but I let you do it for yourself.
Well, they still sting, man. I mean, those losses, and that's that one in Detroit, and that's going to stick with all those players and all those coaches, because they were right there, and it's hard to get there. It's hard to get to that point. You can have better teams. They could have a better team next year and not make that run that they made. You kind of got to get hot at the right time and all those things. And they were playing good football. So they have the city behind them. It won't be the same next year when they do get back to the playoffs. There won't be that same energy. I mean, there's no way to reconstruct that. And you've been that long without a home playoff game. I mean, shoot, I was a sophomore at Michigan the last time they played a home playoff game. Now my son's a freshman at Auburn. I mean, it basically like skipped an entire generation of Lions fans hadn't seen a home playoff game. So it's, I mean, it's still, the city's still going to be crazy. The state's still going to go crazy, but it won't be the same. So that'll be the challenge. They've got some challenges ahead of them this offseason.
No question about it. More with Jim Nagy coming up next. Everybody's asking about corners and D linemen and if they can help the Lions. Who is down at the Senior Bowl? We got names. I got listeners that want to ask Jim questions that I've written down, and we will do that coming up next with the best there is and putting together the best college football game to get the NFL players ready. The Reese Senior Bowl. Jim Nagy coming up. We'll talk to him about some of these players next. But first, Locked On Lions brought to you by our friends at DoorDash. Did the game go to a timeout? Time to order in with DoorDash. Halftime, that's ordering time, 2-minute warning, whatever it is time for DoorDash. This Sunday's the big game, all right? It's the Super Bowl. You're not going to want to leave the house. You got to get with DoorDash. You order pizza, wings, burgers, whatever you need from DoorDash. And the great thing, too, retail as well. It's not just food from restaurants, chips, dips, nachos, everything you need from some of your favorite stores you can get with DoorDash. Score football season's best deals on groceries, like I said, restaurants, retail, and more. All of your favorite restaurants and stores are right there for you with just that click of your thumb. Get 50% off up to a $10 value when you spend $15 more on your first order. When you download the DoorDash app and enter code LOCKED23, that's LOCKED 23, subject to change, terms apply. More with Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Reese Senior Bowl. By the way, Jim watched the game with Andrew and the crew on NFL Network, and you guys did a whale of a job. A great week again, and I don't know how you keep duplicating it, but you deserve props, my friend. It was a great event.
No, thanks, Matt. It was our best year. I told our staff that when we wrapped up. I mean, there was a lot of highlights. That you could bring juniors this year, so adding the underclassmen to the roster. These were our best rosters. I think that'll prove itself out when we get to the draft and see how many guys get picked. And then we had beautiful weather every day. We were on the NFL Network, full live practices for the first time in over a decade. That was cool. They did that. ESPN, obviously, it was beautiful sunny days. So the city of Mobile looked great on television. We had our 75th anniversary. We had a big gala for our legends. We had 16 of our all-time greats back on Friday night. That was incredible. And then we sold out the stadium for the first time since Tim Tebow was down here. So we sold almost 26,000 seats in a 25,000 seat stadium. We actually oversold it. Whatever Tebow, I think it'd been like 14 years since we sold it out. So a lot of great things, man. A lot of really positive momentum for our game.
So tell me this, all that you had some big name quarterbacks there, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, yet the MVP of the game was Spencer Rattler. How about that?
Yeah, Spencer played great. He took advantage of the week. He was probably the best one, right out of the chutes. I will say this, like all our quarterbacks seem like they got better every day, a little bit better every day. And I haven't gotten through all the tape yet. We've had too much wrap up stuff from the week. I have not seen nearly the amount of tape I need to of the week, but Spencer really was good from day one. And that's just feedback from my buddies around the NFL. They said he was from day one probably the best one. And then he got in the game and marched his team right down, threw a beautiful touchdown on the first series to get his team on the board. And I think he helped himself. When we were leading into the week, a lot of the guys in the NFL that I talked to, that was the guy they were excited to see. They kind of felt like they knew where Bo and Penix stood, but this is a guy that they feel like it could be like the sleeper of the class. And I'm not saying I'm not trying to run him up into the first round, but I think Spencer's got a chance to be a starter in the league. And I think there's a lot of, feeling within NFL circles too, the same thing that this guy could end up starting. So it's good to see him have a good week. He's come a long way, a former 5-star guy that has had his ups and downs in college, but played really well this year behind a pretty shaky offensive line at South Carolina. Probably had to move more than we've ever had to see Spencer move. So, man, it was good. It's good to see him have a good week.
Nothing's official yet, but it sounds like the Lions are plucking Terrell Williams away from the Titans. Obviously, I've had a coaching shakeup, and I know he was one of the head coaches down there for the week. What does that mean for Detroit? Well, how did he do?
I mean, I think it's pretty official based off my conversations with him, but who knows? I teased him one morning after it sounded like the news broke in Detroit that he was going there, and he came out to practice the next day with his Titans gear on. I said, Coach T, what are you doing, man? Like, where's your Lions gear? He was still repping the Titans, but so who knows? But he did a great job for us. I mean, I'll say this: we don't have a ton of background together. The last time I saw Coach Williams really cross paths with him was when he was the D-line coach at Purdue, and I was scouting in the Midwest. Probably 15 years ago. I mean, it's back when like Cliff Averill and guys were at Purdue, so it's been a while. But when we did announce him as one of our coaches, my phone just blew up from guys around the league, and Brad Holmes being one of them. Brad hit me up, and I was like, well, what's the connection? When did you guys work together? And he's like, we didn't work together. He's like, he coached me at North Carolina A&T. So,
Wow.
so there was a real connection there. And that's what everyone was just saying. Like, Jim, you're going to love being around Terrell Williams. Like, and he was unbelievable during the week. Obviously he had to take some time away and do that interview with the Lions in the middle of the week, but his ability to, kind of compartmentalize and just get the job done was great. He brought great energy. He kept his team intact. We had some roster attrition on the other side, but he did a really good job keeping his team together, and I'm glad for him. I mean, Detroit got a really good coach. He's a really respected guy around the league.
All right, Jim. It's no secret, right? The Lions need cornerbacks, and you had a kid down there in Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo that lit it up during the week. You see his name now in some mock drafts, very high. Any chance you would think he could sneak to Detroit at 29, or no way?
Not now. No, not anymore. Maybe going into the week there was a lot of first round buzz. I kind of felt like it was because, teams, sometimes these mock draft guys, they want to seem like they're the smartest guy. They want to be the first guy on a player, right? So they'll throw them up in a mock and to say they were the first guy, to have the Toledo guy in their first round mock. But now he's solidly a first rounder. I feel like if going into the week he was a late first round guy, early second round guy, he's probably in the middle of the first round now. So
Wow.
if Detroit's picking there at 29, it would have been a cool story to get a Mac kid from basically your backyard, 45 minutes down the road in Toledo, and you probably could have pulled a bunch of the Toledo fan base up to see Q play on Sundays. But I just don't see that happening after the week he had. He had a phenomenal week, playing a lot of press coverage. You didn't see him do that a lot at Toledo. Got his hands on a bunch of balls, which you did see him do a lot at Toledo. So all the guys that had a lot of first round buzz going into our week. I really wanted those guys to perform well because they had a lot of people in their ears telling them not to come do an all-star game. So I was rooting, silently rooting for those guys, and Quinion had a great week.
Is there a guy that you had at the Senior Bowl that could be a corner at 29 that Detroit could target?
Oh, geez, I'm not in my office right now, so like I'm blanking on I know a lot of guys played well. I know a lot of guys helped themselves. Like Jarvis Brownlee was a guy from Louisville who had a really good week. Cam Hart is a big corner from Notre Dame who had a really good week that a lot of guys in the league were talking about. And he had a good year this year. He had a nice jump from 2022 tape. I'm trying to think of some of the other corners that really stood out.
What about Smith Wade? He had a big game.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, Shaw Smith Wade from Washington State is more of a nickel. So I don't know if you guys need outside corner help or nickel help, but Shaw's the guy that could play nickel and he could play free safety. He's really aggressive. And that's what you want. That's I'm sure that's what Aaron Glenn kind of sees himself in some of these undersized corners is, guys that see it and trigger on it and blow it up. And I think Jarvis and Shaw are both that kind of player. So. He had a beautiful pick in the game and should have been a touchdown. We didn't have review in the Senior Bowl. If we had a review booth, it would have been an 83-yard pick six. But yeah, those are some names. I really felt like someone asked me the other day. I forget who I was doing an interview with, and they asked me what position group exceeded expectations. I thought the corner group really stepped up. I think the league will tell guys in the league will tell you that's a deeper group than maybe they thought it was going to be because a bunch of our guys, and we had a good wide receiver group down there. So there's great competition. I think we've got, 7, 8, 9 guys on the receiver crew that could go top 100. Roman Wilson from Michigan being one of those guys. And this corner crew battled those guys. So it was a good competition.
Yeah, I know you being a Wolverine loved what Roman did early in the week. He was dominant, right? He was great.
Yeah, he was great. we've had a day 2 grade on Roman going back to the summer, and then it looked like he had a great first half of the year before Michigan kind of took the air out of the ball, but so it was great. Yeah, he was cooking people. I mean, he's quick and fast. I put something on social media. He reminds me of Tyler Lockett when I was in Seattle with Locke.
Yeah.
Just he plays big on the ball for a smaller guy. He's when the ball's in the air, he goes and gets it. He doesn't get bodied off the ball and muscled off the ball, and then and he can do stuff after the catch. So, and he showed some things as a route runner, which a lot of our receivers did. That you didn't see on the Michigan tape. You don't see a lot of these college guys run a full NFL route tree, and then they do down here. So you see some of the separation quickness, route savvy that maybe you don't see on college tape. And Roman had 2 really good days before he got hurt, and it was a legit injury at the end of the second day of practice.
All right, coming up next, I got a name for Jim that the Twitter sphere is begging me to ask Jim about. That was at the Senior Bowl for the Lions. We will do that coming up next right here on Locked On Lions, a Wednesday edition. But first, we got to tell you about our friends at PrizePicks. Big game is around the corner. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to turn every game-changing moment into 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 by just picking the right players at PrizePicks. Again, it's more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in with PrizePicks. It's a lot of fun. They got it all right? It's demon time on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks. Like I said, demons and goblins are the newest, most exciting way to play at PrizePicks. Go to the website and check out what I'm talking about at prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. All right? PrizePicks offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts. They got Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, they got discounts, select player stuff, and much, much more. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. It is our friends at PrizePicks. And Locked On Lions brought to you by BetterHelp. Thinking about therapy, thinking about talking to somebody, there's no better place to go than BetterHelp. Sometimes we need the opportunity to get something off of our chest. Big or small, certain things can really start to get to you. It's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. That is why today, we tell you, if there's feelings about something, you want to talk to somebody, not sure where to turn, it's BetterHelp. It is fantastic. Therapy can be different for everybody, but what's great about BetterHelp is you can pick somebody to talk to and then change therapists with no additional charge. If you think about starting up therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. Talking to Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, big game of this past weekend. And again, Spencer Rattler, the quarterback from South Carolina, was the MVP. All right, Jim, I told people I was having you on today, and they're all saying the same thing. Ask Jim about Darius Robinson from Missouri, because the Lions certainly need D linemen. What did you think of him?
He had the best week of any guy down here. Detroit guy, right? So that's cool. Hometown guy for you guys. Yeah. And so I'll just go back to last year. He was eligible to play in the Senior Bowl last year and fell kind of right below the cut line for us. Like, we had him 5th round. It was like 5th round type grade. And when I saw Darius at the SEC media days, he asked me about it, and it was really cool how he asked. Just I forget the exact phrasing, but it was kind of inquisitive. He was just like, Jim, why didn't I make it last year? Why didn't I get an invite? I'd just be curious. I want to know what I can work on, something like that, And I was like, wow, that's, it was a really thoughtful way to phrase the question. He wasn't pissed or anything. Maybe he was, but it didn't come across that way. But he had a really good year this year, man. He's maybe the most versatile D lineman in the draft. He's first one off the bus. I mean, this dude looks beautiful, and sometimes, when they look the part like that, they don't always play the part. And Darius certainly does. He made a big jump this year. He's played inside. I think you could play him anywhere from like the 3 technique over a guard to 5 technique. And this year they played him out as like a jumbo edge player, and he's seriously athletic enough to do that. Kind of reminded me like JJ Watt when JJ was coming out of Wisconsin. I was working for the Chiefs, and I wrote him up as an outside linebacker at like 285 pounds. And I remember I was working for the Chiefs at the time, and our head coach was like, 285-pound outside linebacker, Jim. And I'm like, yeah, I think he could do it. Now, Darius isn't quite that athletic as JJ. I'm not comparing the two guys, but he can play out there. He did that all this year. He can get home from multiple alignments as a rusher. He's extremely long. He's explosive. Like it's hard to find long guys that are explosive. And he just had a great week, So like when we do our practice players of the week, we have the players vote on each other. So, the corners vote on the wideouts, and the running backs vote on the linebackers. Whoever they're really going, the primary position they're going up against in practice, that's who they vote on. But for the overall practice player of the week, which was what Darius got, I pull a front office guy from every NFL team. I'm pretty positive Darius was on all 32, of the top three. And he did. He made it. He made a bunch of money. Played great, played great all week, and probably played his way in the first round. He asked me that after the game. We were grabbing dinner after the game back at the hotel, and he came up and he kind of pulled me aside. He's like, "Do you think I can go in the first round now?" I said, "Darius, let me watch the tape. Give me a call next week. I don't want to misspeak, but." I'm like, and I'll talk to my buddies around the league, and I'll let you know kind of where you're at with it. But he couldn't have had a better week, man. And he's kind of right in your, I would think, right now, 29 maybe.
Yeah.
But man, if he keeps trending the way he's trending right now, like he'll be long gone for you too. That's the for Lions fans, you maybe got to hope, keep your fingers crossed he doesn't blow up the combine and have great a pro day or anything. Because if he keeps trending in this direction, he's a really cool player because he's scheme versatile. He's going to fit for every team's going to be able to find a spot for him. And it's just hard to find guys like that, and guys that play hard and have the attitude he has. Like I'm telling you, this guy was locked in all week. Total business trip for him. I know that if I was a GM of a team, based off like my inside knowledge of the Senior Bowl game, like that is a guy I would want in my locker room. Like I feel like I know what Darius Robinson's all about, and I would not hesitate to spend a first round pick on him.
I love it. Canton kid from here in Canton, Michigan, and all academic. It sounds like you could put him next to Hutch. You could put him next to McNeil, and let's rock, right?
Yeah, no, you seriously play him anywhere other than nose. I think that's the one spot that just from a leverage standpoint, he's big and long, so I don't think he could hold up there, but yeah, he could fit anywhere. Those guys would be. I mean, if you played him on the same side as Aiden and you were gaming those two with each other, that would be really tough to handle.
Jim, this is great, my friend. Long overdue. That's on me. I love you. I hope you're not mad at me. I think you do such great work. We'll get you on before the draft. Absolutely. Thanks so much for the time, and congrats on all the success, man. Great year for you.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I love coming on. You do such a great job with all the line stuff, man. So yeah, have me on whenever, before draft, after draft. Let's just hope Brad and the boys have another good draft and keep building that thing.
You got it. Thanks so much, Jim.
Thanks, Matt.
There he is, Jim Nagy with us, Reese's Senior Bowl Executive Director on a Wednesday edition of Locked On Lions.